This is Border Crossings. My name is Larry London, and I'll join you for today's show as we welcome a music legend into our studios. As the voice of one of rock's greatest bands, the Moody Blues, he gave us such memorable hits as I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band, Tuesday Afternoon, Ride My Seesaw, and Wildest Dreams. And since the 1960s, Justin Hayward and the Moody Blues have recorded over 18 platinum and gold albums, with sales in excess of 70 million. And he's won 2 Ivor Novello Music Awards, one with the Moody Blues and another as a solo artist. Justin Hayward will join us today to talk about his latest solo album, Spirits of the Western Sky, and he'll sing one of the world's best-loved rock classics. Stay tuned for Border Crossings with our special guest, Justin Hayward, on VOA TV. Hi, this is Larry London, and welcome to Border Crossings here on VOA TV and VOA Radio Worldwide. Today in our studios in Washington, D.C., we have the pleasure to welcome a living legend, a music icon who's been in the business, we're talking, what, over 50 years?
Yeah, since I was 17, so I'm 68 now. Yeah.
Wow, well, you look great. Justin Hayward, welcome to Washington. Welcome to Border Crossings.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to be able to have you in our studios. And, of course, for those who have been listening to the radio for as many years as I have, everybody's heard Moody Blues music. Everyone around the planet.
Okay. Yeah,
and you, of course, are the voice of that band, Moody Blues. So the first question is, how did you guys come together? How did the Moody Blues meet and form?
Well, it started as a kind of put-together band in Birmingham in the Midlands, and as a rhythm and blues group, put together from a few different groups, and that didn't really work, the rhythm and blues side. So I came in as a songwriter to replace the original guitar player, and the original bass player left, and we had a big shift round. We were lousy at kind of cover versions and rhythm and blues, but when we started doing our own songs, it really started to happen for us. Then we found an instrument called the mellotron, which gave us an orchestral sound and made my songs work, really. And then we had an identity in our songs and in our music, and we were lucky enough to make an album for Decca called Days of Future Past with Tuesday Afternoon and Nights in White Satin. Then we were brought to America by Bill Graham. We opened up we were everybody's opening act for about 3 years. That's how it happened.
And you had responded to an ad, I guess, in a newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
It was placed by Eric Burdon, I read.
Yeah, I had 2 lucky breaks in my career. One was when I left school, and I answered an ad in the Melody Maker, which was the only musician's newspaper. And I turned up at a house in East London, and Marty Wilde was standing at the door. And he was a famous rock and roll singer in the early 60s. And I got the job as a kid playing with Marty. I couldn't believe it. And then after that, I started writing songs. And I sent songs to Eric Burdon for the Animals, and heard nothing back at all. But about a month later, I heard from Mike Pinder, who was the keyboard player of the Moody Blues, and said, I've heard some of your stuff, and I'd like to meet. And so I met Mike, and we got on well, and then I was in, really. I met the other guys, and I had one thing in my favor. I had an amplifier, which was more than they didn't have, and more than they had, yes.
And you got your first guitar, I guess, at 15.
No, I got my first guitar when I was about 10.
10.
Yeah.
And then
I got the 335 when I was 15.
That you kept the same guitar for many, many years on many songs.
Yeah. I've had the same red 335. It's got a sort of collector's badge of its own. Yes, it's more famous than I am.
And you started off, if I'm not mistaken, performing Buddy Holly music.
Me, as a kid, I just worshipped Buddy Holly, yeah. And as soon as I heard Buddy, then it focused my own mind about what I wanted to do. But I was only about 10 or something like that when I first heard Buddy.
On the road, opening for the Tremolos and...
Oh, that's right, yeah. When I was still at school, I was doing well enough at school in semi-pro bands in the town where I was brought up to have a Vox amplifier, which I bought to the Moody Blues, and a nice guitar, yeah.
So they brought you in as a songwriter, and that's kind of what...
Well, they brought me in because the one guy had left, and because they heard my songs. And Mike, the keyboard player, really liked the songs, and it was just a chance, really. It was a lucky break for me, a lucky break. I'm sure Mike met a couple of other guys, for the job as well.
Sure, but you ended up writing and singing the biggest hits from the Moody Blues collection, and so many hits that you guys gave us over the years.
Well, I think, right after the very first incarnation of the band, the guys that were left, the original band was only together like just over a year or 18 months, and they. And then when me and John joined, it was just, we didn't know each other, but none of us knew each other, but it was, the dynamic changed. And as soon as we started just doing our own songs, not being a cover band, it worked for us.
And you've also contributed music to film. You guys have been featured in films.
We were on The Simpsons. That's pretty
there
good.
you go.
That's something you can't
big.
play. Yes. We weren't called the Moody Blues on The Simpsons. We were called the Satin Nights, I think.
The Satin Nights.
And we were playing at a club. We were in Ned Flanders Goes to Vegas, I think, was the title of the episode.
Justin Hayward is our guest today, and you're on tour right now for your album that you released two years ago, I guess it was.
Yeah, the album of new songs, Spirits of the Western Sky, came out a couple of years ago, and I'm on the road now with my acoustic show with a couple of fantastic musicians, and it's a great show, and we'll be on the road and right through till the beginning of October.
Is there any possibility of actually reuniting with the guys in the band? Some of the guys?
You mean the Moodies?
Yeah, because I know you guys have been together and you took a break. And you've been together. And
No. We did a tour earlier this year, and we come together again. The three of us that are remaining. Nobody died, so that but the three of us are still in the band. We come together for the Moody Blues cruise next February, and then a few dates after that. Yeah, it was just always fun, lots of naughtiness on the cruise and everything.
Well, we're talking with Justin Hayward. He has a catalog of hits and many books worth of stories to tell. But before we get to that, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind doing a song for us. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a thrill to have you here in D.C.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. Great pleasure. I was at Birchmere last night, and I think I'm in Arlington later today. So there you go. Do you need an introduction?
I would love one.
Okay. So I grew up in a town called Swindon, which is at the beginning of the West Country in England. And it's in a landscape of rolling hills. And my late brother and I shared a room at the back of this house that had the most magnificent view to the west. And when we were little kids, he was 9, I was 8, and we're getting into music. He liked Elvis and Bobby Darin, and I liked Buddy and the Everleys. And I was the one, we would dream about our heroes being out there in that western sky. Our bedroom faced the west, and we would think of our heroes. Because we didn't have English rock and roll heroes. Cliff Richard and the Shadows, we had one record, Move It. And I was the one lucky enough to come here, and go to Nashville and Tupelo, Mississippi, and to walk the streets of Lubbock in Texas, where Buddy was born. Only 10 years after that, when I was, still a teenager. And this song is about that window and about that sky. Here we go. Isn't it a strange world? With you and me, gazing at each other through a misty scene of what might have been. Dreaming of the green hills where we could fly, listening to the night bird that made us cry with its lullaby. And we'll overcome and stand on the heights, and we'll be together in our dream. As we look around us, goes on. We're strangers in a strange land, just trying to find where we don't belong. Shadows in the darkness, just passing through. But now that I've found you, well, I realize what I got to do. And we'll overcome and stand on the heights, and we'll be together in the end. Out on the horizon, the west wind sighs, a beautiful adventure is waiting there in the western sky. So bring me some redemption, or take me home. Take me where my heart lies. Now I know that I'm not alone. And we'll overcome and stand on the heights, and we'll be together in our dreams.
Wow. Fantastic. Sounding great.
Good.
Gosh, just
Good.
50 years ago, you sound just as good. Your voice is still there.
Well, it's a new song.
It's a brand new song. Well, it sounds lovely. Justin Hayward here on Border Crossings on the Voice of America. So, in listening to you, you had mentioned that Cliff Richard was kind of all, that influenced
Yeah,
people
but
from England.
I love Cliff and the Shadows. It was great,
But you were listening to Elvis and Buddy Holly and all that.
Yeah, of course.
Is that one of the reasons why? Because often the question comes up, British singers don't sound British when they sing. They sing
don't
in
they?
American English.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, don't apologize.
Well,
It's
I'll remember that and try to
put a little accent in.
I'll try to start a movement towards.
So it's been 6
Probably.
decades since Go Now, one of the very first earliest Moody Blues hits. And all of the vast catalog, as I mentioned, that you have, all the big number one hits. You won an Ivor Novello Songwriting Award.
I won 2, actually.
Two of them.
Thank you very much.
With the band and as a solo artist.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so, but not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then we were
No.
talking about that before.
Yeah.
Is that something that you feel is a missing piece, or does that not really matter much?
I don't think it is for someone like me who lives in Europe and is a committed European, because it doesn't mean much. Maybe even the opposite, actually. I think in England, whenever it's mentioned, it's like, well, what right do they have to,
That's right.
to tell us what should be in the Hall of Fame, a Hall of Fame? But it means a lot to the American fans. But it's subjective, isn't it?
Yes.
Music is subjective. I always think that really with my own music. I believe that the show that I'm doing now, my acoustic show, I know it's good. Whether you like it or not, that's a different thing.
You're happy, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Music is subjective.
Right. 2003, you performed at the Rock Hall of Fame.
I did, yeah.
You did a show
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And released an album as a result of that performance.
Yes.
But
Thank
when
you
you're
for
on stage
mentioning
now, tell me about the audiences. Are you all different ages? I'd assume you're getting young people with the new music. You're getting some of the older fans who.
Well, funnily enough, with the Moody's, it's mostly people that joined us in the '80s with Wildest Dreams. We had a couple of big hits, Wildest Dreams, and I Know You're Out There Somewhere, which was a great time for me personally to have, to be the writer of those hits and to I was kind of awake and aware. I kind of missed it
point,
in the
right.
60s, but I was really paying attention in the 1980s. And so I love that time. So a lot of the crowd is from there. In my own show, there's quite a lot of very young people, but there's people of my own age that feel comfortable in that acoustic situation, come with the wife and the family. It's a different thing somehow, and the kind of gigs we play are very nice. Performing arts centres and like the Ram's Head and Birchmere last night.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful. I mean, I definitely go there.
You like the
if I
smaller
live-
crowds versus the big 50,000?
Well, I wish we
festivals?
played to 50,000 with the Moody's. The Moody's is about 3,000, and my show is about 1,100, and But we just did Glastonbury, as a matter of fact, and how many people were
there's a
there?
few there.
Like 500,000 people.
Exactly.
There, yeah.
So you didn't do 50,000, but you did 500,000.
500,000. Yeah.
And so this tour is now in the United States.
This is a US tour.
Worldwide.
I've done the UK already. I did the UK with the US and UK with the Moody's. Then I went on to do my own tour for the first time in the UK, and that turned out to be very successful. Live Nation asked me back, and so I'm going to do another one next year. And then we're continuing it through the US and then through some European dates later in the year and then on. Yeah, I'll be back again next year.
It must blow you away when you're on stage in a country that doesn't speak English,
Yes.
but they know every word to every song.
Absolutely. Yeah, France is one of those countries, countries like that. And Italy, yeah, that are working, yeah. And Holland too, but of course they do, as you know, they do speak great English in the Netherlands.
Now, if you had a choice between starting your career now, not at this age, but nowadays, the way music is today, or back in the 60s when you started, which would you prefer?
I think it's tougher now. I think there are... it's a more brutal world now, and I think you get kind of one chance, you get one shot at it. And I do feel for the boys and girls that... I appreciate the talent shows, The Voice and those kind of things, and America's
X
Got
Factor
Talent.
and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
X Factor. But you're going to be branded with that the rest of your life. And your 15 minutes of fame is going to be very important when you're my age, when you look back. I think it's tougher now, but I think the groups that can do a gig and create a little bit of magic in a room will always survive.
All right, Justin Hayward's here, so we're going to ask if you do another song.
Oh, yeah. I was going to detune, but I can't be bothered, Larry.
What's the song you're going to do?
This is when the last sort of 20 years, I've really downsized my life. And I've moved from a big house in London to an apartment in France, and then now I live in the most beautiful place in a one-bedroom flat, but by the Mediterranean. Wow. And so all that time I was traveling on the road, and I decided to go east as well as west, and met some people that I hope to be with for the rest of our lives. And this is called The Eastern Sun. Let me be on a mission to your heart, on a journey to your soul. Let me be by your side. Let me be dedicated to your needs, silent when you breathe. Let me be. Let me be in the skylark and the stream, the meadow rich and green. Let me lay by your side. Let me be in the whisper in the trees, gentle like the breeze. Let me be. And if we find life's mercy, we'll shelter and run from the rain. And maybe somehow, somewhere, heaven will find us again. In the east journey on our way. At the dawning of the day, let me walk by your side. Travel on through the gardens and the groves, the cardamom and cloves. Let me be. Golden brown, heady fragrance all around, an intoxicating sound. Let me drown in your love. Take me back where no frozen heart remains, no sorrow and no shame. Let me be. And if we find life's mercy, we'll shelter and run from the rain. And maybe somehow, somewhere, heaven will find us again. And let me be on a mission to your heart, on a journey to your soul. Let me be by your side. Let me be dedicated to your needs, silent when you breathe. Let me be.
Great. They're standing all around the world, loving your music, Justin Hayward. Sounding great. Has it always been music? I mean, is that what you knew you wanted to do from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a family, my parents were both teachers, and they had a very strong faith, and which was great, and it installed it in me. And it installed in me, most importantly, an education and a knowledge about the Anglican Church, which is a great, big, beautiful work of art in itself, rather like the Catholic Church is, you know, in a way. And you can enjoy it for its own sake, for the beauty of the buildings and the thing, and the history and the story. But so I grew up with the hymns from Hymns Ancient and Modern, which I think is called the New English Hymnal now. And those melodies, those ancient melodies, just particularly from the sort of 19th century, just stuck in my head as a little boy. And I knew that there was something in assembly we would sing those things. Of course, it's politically incorrect now to do that, and quite right, you shouldn't have to do that. But when my brother and I were little boys, we would sing those songs in assembly every morning in school. And they just stuck in my head, and then... I don't know. It was always music, and then I pestered my parents for a ukulele, then a guitar. And they were very kind of liberal people. They were both teachers, as I say, and they were kind of a bit new age with it. So they always encouraged me. But they could get your 5.0 levels, which is a qualification. You know, they made sure that I passed enough exams. They knew how to pass exams. They told me how to pass exams to get into a really good school, a grammar school. And so I got a great education. Then they said, okay, you can do what you want. So,
are your children into music? I know that you had a daughter in 72 who sang on an album.
Yes,
at age 5. You
yes,
put her on your album
right.
Songwriter. So.
Yeah. I don't know, but I've got a grandson now, little Cassius. He's 7. Yeah, thank you. And he's got some groove in him. You know, he grooves along there. And but I mean, the whole of my family, we all our life is around music. Not that anybody else in the family works in music, but you know, my son-in-law is a writer and writes a lot about music. But I think my grandson is going to be the one. Like, funny enough, that I inherited all the records from my grandfather, like all these wind-up 78s, and that really turned me on. And maybe you'll
pass it on
go over
to him
to
now.
little Cassius.
There you
Yeah.
go. And the album songwriter. Okay, so if you look back at your career, would you say what would be your favorite part? Would it be the songwriting? Would it be the singing? Is it, you know?
Well, songwriting is a kind of world of imagination. It's like having a room in your house that nobody else can go in somehow. But it makes all the rest of the stuff possible. And I think my life would be... I'd be quite a sad person if I wasn't a songwriter. There'd be a part of my life that's really quite... that would be empty. But... I think the songs make the rest of the things happen, but I was very lucky to be part of that group of people in the 60s in London, in swinging London, to have gone there with Marty Wilde in 1963, and to have grown up. And it was a small community in London when the Beatles came and changed everything, and I was glad to be part of that and to know everybody and to... You know, that was a wonderful time.
You must have some great stories to just say, from what you remember.
I know I was there. I've seen the pictures.
Now, do you have a favorite Moody Blues song?
My favorite Moody song is a song called "I Know You're Out There Somewhere," and from the 80s, and it seems to resonate with a lot of people. And you can go anywhere in the world and play that, and people will kind of know it. And then by the time you've got to the end of the second verse, they go, I've heard this song. And they get into the sentiment of it.
Right.
It's about knowing what happened to the first girl you ever loved or the first boy you ever loved. You know?
Now, being on the road for as many years as you have, do you ever get tired of this? I mean, is it, or is it just passion, and what keeps you going?
Well, I'm sorry to use the word, but it's a kind of drug, in a way, and you get, it's a gypsy life, because it's not, being on the road is not the real world.
Right,
It's a fantasy kind of life, and you don't get room service at home, but, although I try, but... Yeah, it's something I feel. I also feel a duty to do it because it makes people happy, and I think music makes the world a better place. So I'm going to keep doing it.
What song, if you could pick a song that kind of gets the best reaction from the Moody Blues catalog when you're doing a concert?
Yeah,
what gets them up? What gets them going crazy?
There's a couple of things. I mean,
I imagine they're standing the whole show for all the great songs.
I think Tuesday Afternoon, because it was the first biggie for us, for this group here in the U.S., Ride My Seesaw, and of course Nights, which
you're going to do that for us.
This guitar is waiting to do.
Do you remember where you were when you heard your song on the radio for the first time?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, yes, I do. I made a couple of records before I joined the Moody's, and I made some records with Marty as well, and I can certainly remember where I was, yes, and I remember sitting on the stairs in my parents' house, and listening to it on the radio and thinking, wow, seems quieter than everybody else's. I didn't think that sounds great. I thought, why can't they turn mine up a bit more?
And then you get a phone call, you're number one. I mean, that must have kind of rocked your world.
Well, with Nights, it was a very slow success story. And Nights, Question was the one that I really had a phone call where, hey, that's number one. And the Question was a great time for us, 1970, the Isle of Wight Festival. But Nights was number one first in France. And it sort of grabbed the French people first. And that was a great phone call, yes. So we dashed over to Paris again and enjoyed the sort of anarchist society that have a chauffeur. You can be an anarchist with a chauffeur, can't you, in France? Yes.
Well, here we are, 70 million records sold later.
Is that right?
14 platinum albums in your collection. Wow. And, of course, you've had a number of solo albums do very, very well. And you're on the road right now, touring, performing some new stuff, some classic stuff. Yeah,
some deep things from the albums that you would never hear with the Moody's, yes.
And you've got the new live album from Atlanta?
That's right, live at the Buckhead in Atlanta. Yeah, and a DVD. That yes.
So go out and get a copy right away.
Absolutely,
and check it out. And
and Spirits of the Western Sky. Of
that's
course,
right.
The two songs that I did now. Yeah,
beautiful songs.
Yeah,
I
good.
mean, beautiful songs.
Thank you.
So, if people want to reach out to you and on Facebook and stuff, are you doing all the social media?
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, it's all there. Yeah, it's all there. And
where can they go?
Just check it out.
You know
well,
your website address?
Yeah, the website address, and people will find it. You know, there's a Facebook thing and a Twitter thing.
You can't hide anymore.
No, not really.
But and we also talked off air before about writing a book, and you said maybe not anytime soon. Out of concern for what information may be, you have to tell the stories. You said you have to tell the stories.
I'd have to be honest, so it would have to be warts and all. So it might be hurtful.
Ruffle some feathers. And
it might. That's a good way of putting it, Larry. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Ruffle some feathers.
Do you have a highlight? Something that would have to be in that book that would be a chapter. This is the highlight for me.
The highlight career-wise, or
either way. I mean, in your life,
career is. We're talking today about the career, but of course, I have a life.
Yes, you do,
and people that I love, and of course. But career-wise, I think it would. We're talking about the career, and career-wise, in 1972, we played Madison Square Garden twice in one day, and they gave us the Golden Ticket Award because nobody will ever sell more tickets in one day at Madison Square Garden than us. Because you got to do it twice in the same day.
Same day?
Yeah. So we did a 5 o'clock and an 8 o'clock or something like that, or a 9 o'clock. But still nobody knew who we were. And then Ray and I, the flute player, and I went out on the street between the shows and gave some tickets away. And people were like, hey, man, great, that's great. And they had no idea who we were. And they must have been in the concert. And they go, weren't those the guys that... because people always know the music, but we were never celebrities, which was a good thing in a way.
Yes. And in all the albums... I didn't see a Christmas album. No holiday music.
Yeah, we did a seasonal album, which I don't think was the greatest move we ever did. I think it was called December, and no, you got to look a little harder there.
I'll dig a little deeper.
It's not in your thing. Yeah, dig a little deeper. Yeah.
All right, if you wouldn't mind doing one more song, I know this is a song that's touched millions and millions of people around the world for various different reasons, and maybe none of us really actually know what the story is in the song that you might be able to shed a light on since you wrote this classic song.
Yeah. I was 19 years old. I was at the end of one big love affair, at the beginning of another, and I came home from a gig one night, just wrote the 2 verses of the song. And I don't know, a girlfriend had given me some white satin sheets, and the love affairs when you're that age are huge, aren't they, in your life. But I think there's a lot of truth in this song. People think, what is he going to play? But I do think that I do write letters never meaning to send. I'm very careful about pressing the send button on emails nowadays, that's for sure. I do think just what you want to be, you'll be in the end. So here we go. Nights in white satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never mean to send. Beauty I'd always missed with these eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say anymore, 'cause I love you. Yes, I love you. Gazing at people, some hand in hand, just what I'm going through, they can't understand. Some try to tell me thoughts they cannot defend. Just what you want to be, you will be in the end, and I'll love you. Yes, I'll love you. Oh, I'll love you. I'll love you. Oh, yeah. Yes, I'll love you. Yes, I'll love you. Oh, I'll love you. I'll love you. Oh, yeah.
Wow. I've got goosebumps. Honestly, I've got goosebumps. There are several songs in the history of classic rock music that are always among the biggest and the best hits. Billboard, Rolling Stone, they rank them all the time. And Nights in White Satin is always in that list.
I hope so.
And back in the time when you put that song together and it came out on the radio, you took a big risk because it's a 7-minute song. So
Yeah.
that was a big risk because, I mean, American Pie, Hey Jude,
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven, just a few other songs in rock history
Yeah.
have passed the barrier that was created
That's
by radio.
right, yeah. Well, it was released in a lot of countries. Like we said, it was number one in France, straight away. But they didn't release it in the UK, in the US. No, they released Tuesday Afternoon first, which was great because it was a short, 2.5-minute song, and it was a big hit for us. But then the pressure to release Nights became. It became unstoppable, really. So a few months later, they released Nights.
Career-wise, any regrets? Looking back, anything you do
sure.
differently?
I do lots of things differently. Yeah, of course. I don't know what they are.
Honestly, but looking at a career, as accomplished and as respected and as successful as yours, it's hard to imagine that you would change anything.
I've been very, very lucky. Very, very lucky things that have happened, and the moment has come, and I've been able to grasp that moment.
Were you guys ever kicked out of a hotel? I have to ask that.
Yes.
I get that all the time from
sure.
rock bands who actually destroy the hotel rooms.
Never destroyed a hotel room. Why? But
Told to leave.
Kicked out. Yes.
And when you sign in, do you use alias names? Do you guys give? Yeah.
Yeah. I change
So all that
the
stuff
time.
is true then. All these stories that we hear.
Yes. I mean, there was a lot more naughtiness went on in the 60s. It was a lot freer, then. And girls were powerful. They're a lot more powerful than they are now, I think. They would hunt in gangs. And they could always take care of themselves. And and they were around musicians. In fact, I would say in the 60s that the girls and the women were the greatest uncredited support for the groups. Really, that they in my own case, I wasn't living in my own house when I was living in the flat of my girlfriend. Our drummer and I were. Thank goodness we had girlfriends who had a job that worked, who had an apartment, and that we could live on their couch and support us. Yes, it was like that. It was like that.
Amazing. Well, I mean, is there any advice you could offer to the young? If you could talk to Ed Sheeran, Sam Smith, these young guys, just getting started. But as somebody who's been through the school of hard knocks, what would you tell them?
I would say trust your own judgment, because there's going to be a lot of failure along the way, along with little bits of success. Trust your own judgment, do what you think is right, and then you'll have nobody else to blame at the end, if it goes pear-shaped. And that's some comfort. But trust your own judgment and create some magic somewhere live. You know, be able to do it live. If you can do it on record, that's great. But you've got to be able to do it in a room.
And with that, a good lead into the new CD, the DVD, Spirits Live. It's available now.
Yeah.
And the album, which has been out for a couple of years.
Yes, Spirits of the Western Sky. Yes.
Get a copy
of
that.
All the new songs.
And go see Justin Hayward in concert if he is performing near you.
Seeing you, yeah.
Thank you, Justin, for coming in.
Great pleasure.
What an honor to meet you, and I appreciate you coming by today.
Oh, great pleasure.
I'm Larry London. You're watching Border Crossings on VOA TV.